Good morning, everybody in DFS land. It's your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another episode of Chop Talk, brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, where we study everything from MMA to NFL to PGA to NBA to all of the DFS sports, and we bring them to you with 20 coaches, 20 contributors, and over 1,500 members talking in our VIP Slack chat forums all the time, 24/7 DFS action. DFSArmy.com/ref/3 is the link you'll find in the comments section of this video, and use code CHOP, CHOP, for your 10% discount, because once again, friends never let friends pay retail. I'm your buddy Chop. This is a Chop Talk episode where we're going to talk a little bit more about how to tweak the Domination Station optimizer my way. My way is not everybody's way. My way is, I like to consider it, a decent way, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. When we talk about DFS, some guys play GPPs only, some guys play cash games only, some guys play a blend of both, some guys stacking cash in baseball, some guys don't. We have these debates constantly going on inside DFS Army with the coaches back and forth, and what I want you to do is I want you to plug in with an open mind and then start seeing which coaches actually make the most sense to you, because some of them are going to just click like a light bulb. Those are the guys you should be keying on. Those are the guys you should be following. When you have a losing streak, stick with that guy. Don't sit there and go, oh, well, his doesn't work, so I'm off onto this other guy. You're just going to confuse yourself. What you need to do is you stick to until you get to know a guy. I used to play games of guess the pros, guess where the pros are going to go. And I used to do it with Evan Silva and Derek Notorious, in Roto Grinders, and Chris Raybon and all these guys when I was playing NFL and some of these other sports. And then I would do it with our own, with Football Geek, and with Boomer's Daddy and these guys. When we would get into the Slack chat forums, I would try and guess, when I was learning, which way these guys would go and try to figure out what plays they would recommend, and then I would kind of compete against them. I would build a lineup with a lot of their picks because I wasn't sure about myself, and then I would build a lineup with my own picks. And I would try to see which one outscored the other. And as I started getting more and more confident in my own methods and finding the guys that I listened to, and the guys, and it's no offense to some of the guys that I never did listen to or don't listen to that much anymore. My mind just doesn't work that way. It doesn't click. It's not, you're not going to offend me if you tell me that, dude, Chop, I don't get what you sound like you're speaking French to me. That's fine. We've got other guys like Donuts and Al Walsh, and new guys like DFS Up North in PGA, and Matt in pitching, and Thunder Dan, and I'm going to leave guys out because we've got so many of them, and I really apologize because all of our guys are great. But the point is, you're going to find certain guys that you gravitate towards, and those are the guys you should be listening to until you become very familiar with that guy and his game and how it relates to yours. And then if you want to grow a little bit more outside of that, that's when you start listening to the other guys a little bit, or letting them influence your decision a little bit. So what you're plugging into today is my way, okay? It isn't the highway. It's just my way. So what I'm going to do, if you haven't followed me already out on Twitter, do so. I try to share a lot of our content from our guys out here on Twitter land, just to expose the Army. I think we're the best site in the world. So if it sounds like an infomercial, hey, sorry. If I cured cancer, I'd be screaming from the mountaintops that I've cured freaking cancer. I think we've solved DFS as far as a content site is concerned, with the delivery and with the coaching and with the quality of tools and the quality of information we provide. So you're just going to hear me talk about it a lot. It's because I believe in what I do. But follow me out on Twitter. You can find access to us. More importantly, obviously, come inside. Follow that link in description down there in the bottom of the video. What I'm going to show you is we're going to open up Chin Music today. And we're going to take a quick look at, we're going to focus on the main slate today because I don't want this to be dead by noon. There is a video in there for cash games versus GPPs if you want to watch that. I may replace it with this one. I don't really know. If not, just go back, search Chin Music on our website, go back through the MLB tab here and the articles, and just go back a few pages, find a previous Chin Music article, and this video will be in those. Main slate, pitching, there's your two pitching, there's your early, and there's your main. I don't have a lot of pitchers I like on the main, and I get that out of our research station, and I'll show you in a little bit. But different price points, Vegas odds, K-score, which is strikeout potential, DFSA ratings, and then the opponent. Gives you a good idea of who that is and who they're looking for. Pitching to exploit on the main slate, there's a few. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, LA, and the Dodgers. Some of these offenses aren't running that good. Personally, I love the fact that they're getting soft pitching tonight. They could explode. Might. But they're also not running well. I like seeing a combination of both. I like to stack as many check marks in the pro column. You know, when I was looking for girls before I got married, I would check blonde, big boobs, easy drunk, gets a little slutty at closing time, isn't afraid to sleep in a strange bed, whatever. Those are the boxes that I would check as I was trying to figure it. Now, if it only has one or two boxes checked, probably not a great matchup. But if all those boxes are checked, hello. We have a winner. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to check all the boxes I can with these numbers. You know, you get your Baltimore, and then none of these teams are really potent offenses right now. LA was, but LA's cooled off. Doesn't mean they're not in a great spot tonight. When you look at the offenses to stack with implied run totals, we come up across, and then I also do something. I look at opposing batting averages. What side of the plate does that pitcher have the most trouble with? Some pitchers don't get right-handed batters out, but they do get left-handers out. These guys are typically going to be in order of the highest implied run totals you're going to find, and in there are the teams that I'm going to list when it gets out of order is going to be the ones who have a pitcher who struggles against both sides of the plate. He allows a 320 or above batting average to both sides of the plate. When I find that, that lineup is going to turn over when it works, when they score a lot of runs, because he can't get out either side. It's not like he shuts down the lefties and then get the righties hitting pretty hard. That's going to kill some rallies in there somewhere at probably critical times for me. But when he can't get either side of the plate out, he's just going to, that lineup has the potential to just turn over like a windmill. And when it does that, man, we are golden. So I try to focus on those offenses. Do they work every night? No, they don't even work most nights. But when they do, we try to be in the right contests to get paid back for all the nights that we sucked. Okay? And that's not necessarily big GPPs. That's all VIP stuff. You got to come inside Slack and follow me for contest selection and things like that, where I tend to guide a lot of guys and hopefully right the ship and keep them from redepositing again and again and again. Inside these offenses, you're going to find the best hitters going right now. I take the last 7-day trend on their WOBAs, and I try to find the guys that are going the best inside that offense. If a guy's WOBA over the last week is a 160, he's not going to be on my list. I don't want to play him. I might, in very rare occasion, complete a stack with him or something, but generally, I don't want to play him. It's not running hot. Baseball is a game of hot streaks. So I try to stick with the hot hitters and get one more day out of them as best I can. I'll ride those trains until they buck me. And when I'm only looking at a 7-day sample size, as you'll notice when we dig into the numbers, when I only look at a 7-day sample size, you're going to get on and off the train pretty quick. If a guy gets hot for 2 or 3 days, boom, his 7-day numbers are going to pop in there and start coming up, and we're going to notice that. And when he starts cooling off, his 7-day numbers are going to drop, and we're going to be able to jump off that train. Is it foolproof? No. Does it work all the time? No. But it does tend to work fairly well. These are the guys with decent 7-day WOBAs inside offenses set to do some damage tonight. I'm just trying to stack the deck, put it in our odds the best we can. The 200 on 200 is something I talk about inside DFS Army, and I tweet it out when guys on that list hit home runs. Fam's the only one on the early, but on the late slate, you've got a bunch to pick from. And what you're going to find is the offenses that are in good spots. Cubs, Rizzo, Cubs. You're going to find some Seattle with Cruz and Hanagers in there somewhere. Zunino's in there. You're going to find some Cincinnati with Votto, Schebler, Jeanette. Then you're going to find a lot of Baltimore in there. Trumbo, Jones, Scope, Mancini. Let's scroll back up to Baltimore and see Machado, Jones, Alvarez, Peterson. Okay, we don't see Trumbo and Mancini in there, but guess what? Those guys have good power numbers against this particular pitcher tonight. It might be something we need to look at for GPPs or something. So this is just a rough rundown of chin music and what it's supposed to point out to you. You can build lineups just dead off of this, but you just don't get the feedback if you have questions. When I dive into the research station, the first thing I look at is today's starting pitching matchups. I've closed this out to where it's only the main slate. I'm going to go over here to the DFSA grade. And I'm going to start looking. What I did was I sorted, if you can see this little arrow right there, this little arrow. Yeah, I've sorted by descending order the K percentages. It's going to bring all my high strikeout pitchers to the top. And I'm going to start looking at this K percent versus the team that he's facing. How many times do they strike out? See, like this one, not so good. It's going to suppress his potential. That's why I'm not on Chris Archer tonight. Boston doesn't strike out. And then I'm going to look at, a couple of these other guys, and I'm going to start sorting down. When I do, I can scroll all the way over to Vegas information too when it pops up here. And minus 215, minus 174, minus 1. It's no wonder that I wrote some of these guys up. I've got David Price wrong. I apologize. I had him written at a 170 as a minus 130. That's my bad. But at any rate, that's where I'm starting to look, and I look for those high implied run totals. And that's really all I'm trying to do for pitching. I've got 3 pitchers singled out tonight in DeGrom, Maeda, and Price. One of them will have an okay night. I don't necessarily know which one. I mean, I know that some are more likely than others. I'm not trying to pick the guy that nobody else has discovered and hope he throws a 70 out there tonight. I don't give a crap about that. I'm just trying to build good lineups and let the shit hit, wherever it can. Take that pressure off yourself. You don't have to be perfect to win this game. You do need to be perfect if you're going to win a 20,000 person GPP, but you don't need to be perfect to win, 100-mans or 1,000-player GPPs or head-to-heads or 50, whatever the hell it is you play. You don't have to be perfect to win those. You just have to be pretty good, and you have to be pretty consistent. What I'm going to do when I find those pitchers is I'm going to go over to the Domination Station and start tweaking them. And I'm going to be using the chin music list as much as I can that I pointed out to you. That's why I did that. I also go into the trends tool. I should also have that up by the main. There's the main. And I'm looking at specific offenses. We liked Baltimore, right? So when I click on Baltimore, it should pull up good grades. Baltimore's in a good spot. The matchups like Baltimore. Now, are they running hot? Well, Machado is. Jones is. Alvarez is if he gets the start. And then down here, maybe a Jace Peterson. But why would I run Chris Davis? 125 WOBA over the last 7 days? I don't care if he's hitting off a tee tonight. He's probably going to find a way to hit it foul. I mean, he's not hitting the ball well. Okay? That's why he's 2,300. But I'm going to key on these few guys in my lineups. I'm going to go to Boston. I'm going to do the same thing. Mediocre grades because they're facing Chris Archer, but we all know Boston can score some runs. They're damned expensive. Not a lot of value in there, but when you come down here, you look 539, 487, 579, 416, 417, 395, 529, all playable. And look all the way down here at 2,200, Sandy Leon. Guess what? Might be a bottom of the order night for some value for Boston if I want to run them. I don't know. I'm starting to formulate ideas. Where could I get the big Baltimore bats, the big Boston bats? If the Yankees are on the main slate, the big Yankee bats. Let's see if they are on the slate. Yankees' best offense going right now. Again, very expensive. Need to find some value. Neil Walker's, you running hot? Sure is, 464. There's some value. So maybe it's another bottom of the order type stack because look, Gary Sanchez is likely going to take the day off, day game after a night game, and he's got a little calf issue or something like that, and is scheduled to get day off tomorrow. Very, very likely that Austin Romine gets the start today. Go down here and he's hitting a WOBA of 835 over 8 at bats in the last 7 days. Hello. He hit a pinch bomb, I think, for him last night. Hello. Hot bats. Get on the hot bats. Cheap. Tyler Austin, fairly cheap. Clint Frazier, if he draws the start. Is he hot? 658 over 4 at bats. It's small sample size, but whatever. Hot bat's a hot bat. These are the guys I'm going to be focused on. Stanton's dropping. Look, from a 400 on the season to a 476 past 2 weeks to a 381 now. He's cooling off. This is an indicator I can hop off the train. For $5,200, I can hop off the train. For a 233 WOBA over the last week on Aaron Judge, why the hell am I on that train? That's too much money for me to want on those guys. Okay? That's just how I am. That's just how I roll and how I think. I'm going to focus on the hot hitters. So now that we've got a few of those guys figured out, let's jump to the Domination Station. Let's load up the main slate. And if you want to learn how to use this tool, you got to become a VIP. It's just what it is. Hopefully you get enough tips and stuff to see that we use these tools in conjunction with each other, and we use these tools together to show you how to build these lineups. Now, I can do a bunch of different things on this main slate tonight. I can start cutting out. Oh, don't be yesterday. Okay. Where are we? I got to double check and make sure we're going up against, make sure our pitchers are on there, the right guys. DeGrom, Skaggs, Maeda, good. Okay, so now what did I tell you before? I said that DeGrom and Maeda and Price are my pitchers, right? And I'm going to like some of these teams to stack. The rest of them are going to kind of be dead to me. That's too much information to process. I have to draw some lines somewhere. I have to make some damn decisions. I have to put my foot down. Okay? You know, it's the way that this game goes. And some nights I put my foot down in the right place, and some nights I put it down in a pile of shit. It just, whatever. Baseball's baseball, man. First thing I do is I go and I run about 6 lineups, and I take about 4 unique players, and I just run the default. I just want to see what it's telling me. I want a few lineups, and I want a wide spread because I want to find out who it really likes. DeGrom. Didn't change him out. It's changing 4 people out per lineup, but it didn't change DeGrom out. The Domination Station so far tonight loves DeGrom. For whatever reason, damn, I'm seeing some Chris Davis in here. Now, I'm going to probably disagree with that. It's probably pulling from some BVP or some big splits, you know, some ISO on ISO, or, you know, the pitcher gives up to whatever-handed bat and Davis smashes whatever-handed pitcher, and you know it compiles all that stuff. It probably just sees a great matchup. It does mix in a little bit of Bell, Flores, Pujols, whatever. It's obviously going cheap at first base because it doesn't see overwhelming value there. It sees overwhelming value and maybe positional scarcity somewhere else where we need to pay up for a good matchup. Somewhere else. Looks like it loves Mike Trout and it loves Giancarlo Stanton. You know, Elvis Andrus loves Elvis Andrus. Now look, it's going to really mix and match a lot of different teams. You notice there's not a lot of stacking going on in here, in these lineups, not 3 stacks and 4 stacks. That's because the default lineup typically is geared towards cash. It's typically going to it doesn't care about correlation, doesn't care about teams. It cares about who's the best first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, shortstop, and who's the best for the salary to fit it all in and get the highest number of projected points. It takes all those little numbers and crunches them all and then just spits out the best combination. It doesn't give a crap what the combination is. You have to go in there and you have to adjust it. And so when it puts out a 140 and you look at that and go, well, that's not going to get me much. No, it's not. But it's also not an accurate projection. It's not trying to pinpoint it's not trying to tell you that Cozart's going to score 11.4 points tonight. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to notice that Cozart usually runs at a 10, and this is a high projection for him, so he's in a good spot. Or he usually runs a 13, and now he's an 11 tonight, so he's in a bad spot, so he doesn't show up in the optimizer. Okay? There's a ton of those guys. What we're going to do is we're going to sort through these, and I'll show you how I start to tweak this number out to get what I want to get. I want DeGrom. There's a lot of him. But I also want Maeda in some. So I can use the smiley face here, and I can goose his projections 5, 10, or 15%, or I can just go in manually and do it. Personally, I just go in manually and do it. So if I want to bring in more, I'm also going to jump this thing out to about 10 to 12 lineups. If I'm going to run 3 pitchers, let's run 15 lineups and hopefully maybe get 5, 5, 5 of each pitcher or something close to that. Maybe I want 70% DeGrom and 30% of the other guys. Okay, then I'm going to try and tweak it to where it starts spitting those in. I could force it with exposures by using the minimum exposure and say I damn well want Maeda in 15% of my lineups tonight, and it would do that for me. I don't like using that because what it's going to do down here is it's going to run DeGrom, and then when it runs out of DeGrom, it's going to go Maeda. That's not an accurate representation of how that thing is supposed to work. I want them mixed in randomly because I want it to pull a great Maeda lineup with a great DeGrom lineup, and then I can run them both. So I'm going to run 15 lineups. I'm going to cut my uniques down to, say, 3. I'm going to switch from optimal mode to tournament mode because that's going to spread my bats out when I get to that phase. But the first thing I'm going to work on is getting these pitchers right. So I'm going to take Kenta Maeda and I'm going to jack him up to 36 points. So it forces him in. The optimizer is going to go, oh, he's in a good spot. And I'm going to do the same thing with David Price. Jack him up to about 36. I'm only worried about pitchers right now. I'm going to hit optimize. I'm going to go down here when it starts cranking out my lineups, and I'm going to click on the pitchers. And see, it's still just throwing me DeGrom, 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 DeGrom. So guess what? I don't have enough of the other guys. Okay, it's still 100% DeGrom. So I need to go back into Maeda, and I need to crank him up even more, and I need to crank up David Price even more. And then I click Optimize. And if it goes the other way, the pendulum swings the other way, and all of a sudden it's all Maeda, then whatever. See, lots of Price. Why? He's too cheap for those 40 points. So I got to come back in here. I got to tone him down. 38's about in the middle where we were. We started at 36, we went to 40. Re-click Optimize. DeGrom, Price, Maeda. See how it's mixing them? DeGrom, Price, Maeda, Price, DeGrom, Maeda. Now there's our mix. Now we just want to see what the proportions are when this thing cranks off 15 lineups. Of course, it's running a little slow right now because I've got the screencast software going and a few tabs open. The research station's kind of a hog. We'll go ahead and close him down. Damn, I hope I don't need that later. But now 7 lineups, 6 lineups, and 3 lineups. That's actually not terrible. So I'm going to probably leave that alone. Okay? I've got my mix. And see how they're mixed in randomly? It's not DeGrom, 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 Maeda, 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 Price, Price, Price. It's all mixed in there randomly. That's a good mix for my pitchers. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to set up my stack feature. Who did I like? I'm going to take my formation, and let's say tonight I want to run a balanced 3x3 stack. I'm going to get a lot of 3-3-2s, 3-3-1-1, stuff like that, but I'm going to get a pretty balanced lineup tonight on a bigger slate that's going to pull from a couple of different offenses, but it's going to primarily pull from the offenses that I really want. And it's going to stack those offenses. If I've done my research right, and if the night goes my way, New York's going to have a big night. I want them in a lot of my lineups. LA should be in a good spot. Mets, Miami, Tampa, Boston. I want them in a lot of my lineups. Cincinnati's in an okay spot. Pittsburgh's in an okay spot, but I'll probably pass on them. Cleveland, Chicago White Sox, Baltimore was in a good spot. Oakland, I love Oakland most nights. Seattle's in a pretty good spot. Now you can come back through here, and if you really want to cut these guys out, it's not going to stack any of these guys. I might leave in some, let it pull some Dodgers, so I'll leave that at a 0. I don't want any White Sox. I don't mind Cleveland. I don't mind Chicago. I don't mind Pittsburgh. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't mind some Philly, but no Atlanta, no Texas, no Toronto, no Mets, whatever. And then this is, do it your way. I'm just telling you, it's not going to pull anybody from these. Now, if we want to make sure these don't add up to over 200% too, because that would be 100% of these guys, 100% of those guys. There's your 200%. 50, 70, 120, 140, 180, 210, 250. Got to tone it down some. Still really like New York, really like Boston, or really like Baltimore. So I'm going to tone my Oakland down some, my Seattle down some, my Cincinnati down some. Let's go retake. Well, I'll probably take my LA out completely. 50 and 50 is 100, 110, 150, 180. Is that right? So I can throw another 10% on Cincinnati and another 10% on Seattle, and now I'm adding up to 200. I didn't do it right, did I? What an idiot. But now I should be adding up to 200. It'll let me run some stacks. 50 and 50 is 100. There's 40, 40, 80, and 20. Yep, there's 200. Okay, so now, and I won't have any Colorado stacks. I might have a one-off. I won't have any Toronto stacks. I might have an LA stack. Same 15 lineup, same 3 unique players. Run it. Coming in a 3x3 formation. You want to make it 4 and 3, 4 and 4, 4 and 2? Do whatever. My way just because it's the way I do it. It doesn't mean squat. That's just how I'm trying to get a little bit more balanced lineup so that I don't need to go so hog wild in GPPs. I can do a little bit more. I've got some stacking and some correlation to get a couple of guys on base when the big hit happens in the big offense that hopefully scores 8 runs. That's just the other thing. When it comes to stacking in baseball, the reason why is of those teams, of those 8-9 teams playing tonight, 8-9 games, 3 or 4 of them are probably going to score 8 runs. If it's only 3 or 4 teams, you want to have multiple players in those offenses. That's where you're going to pile up the points. Okay? You can't go pick one guy from, Baltimore, one guy from LA, one guy from Houston, one guy from Chicago, one guy from wherever, one guy from Cincinnati, one guy from whatever, and then hopefully I get out of here. And then hopefully hit every single one of them perfectly right, because they're not all going to score 10 runs. And even if they all scored 10 runs, you could very easily get the one guy that didn't do crap. We've all been there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put as many people in the big offenses as I can. If New York scores 10 runs tonight, I want 3 guys in there, at least. I would want 4, but, I don't want to take too much risk. If I only take 2, I might get the wrong 2. If I take 3, I might at least get the one guy with the monster game. I mean, I've got a third of the team covered. If they go off, I should be okay. That's all stacking's doing for you. It's also correlating points. When a guy's on base and another guy hits a double, then you get both the run and the hit and whatever, and the RBI. Fine. It works like that too. But you're mostly just trying to cut down on those offenses that you think are going to score the most, and then pile some bats into those offenses and hope it works. When it does, you go through the roof. When you spread out too much, and one from here, 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 and maybe 2 from here, baseball, wrong answer. Sorry, you've limited your upside to the point that you can't beat 10 people, because 4 of them are going to be stacking against you, and one of them is going to connect well. And when one of the 4 stacks connects right, you're toast. You can't compete. You're too spread out. You're too flat. You don't have the upside to really pile in those points and compete with that guy. I'll say that until I'm blue in the face. I learned it in hockey. It took me a couple of years, but I really solidified it in my head this year. I'm not coming off of that point. The world is just too smart right now. These DFS sites that we're part of have just done too much educating of the public now. The morons are not out there that say, I just love the Royals tonight, so I'm going to load up 4 Royals. And you know who else I like tonight? I like the Chicago White Sox. They're my favorite team, so I'm going to load up 4 of them. And I'm going to go play that in a head-to-head for $10. That does not exist anymore, man. It used to. That's gone. Those guys have learned that in cash games, I'm supposed to spread out and not stack. Okay, so now you've got a whole bunch of people sitting on the 50% line. What are you going to do to get over them? You've got to stack. You've got to take some upside to get past that glut of people all doing the same damn thing. When they think this way, you got to think that way. Okay, so now that we've got some of our stacks and stuff figured out, Maeda and DeGrom. Okay, those are 2 good lineups. Chris Davis, I'm not going to like him much. But Scope and Mancini, there's 3. And then what do we have? Gregorius, Stanton, Gardner, 3 Yankees. And then, Apalka and a Cozart for good measure. 3-3-1-1. Neil Walker, Yankee, Baltimore. And Yankee, Baltimore, Baltimore, Yankee. Once again, 3-3-1-1. Same one-offs, though. Adam Jones, it flip-flopped a little bit of the players. Okay, see how it did that? It got just a little bit of a different mix, but it's the same teams. It's because I picked so heavily on Baltimore and the Yankees and Boston. See if we can come down here and find it doesn't like Boston that much because it's not putting them in the top lineups. It's not prioritizing Boston. And watch Chris Davis. He's got a groin issue. Votto Harrison, there's Pittsburgh and Seattle. Or Cincinnati and Seattle. Well, yeah, Pittsburgh and Seattle. So see, we didn't officially stack Pittsburgh, but it threw them in there anyway. So you have to go through and analyze these lineups, and you have to tweak them the way you want. So the way I'm going to tweak them the way I want is I'm going to look at these catchers. These are my allocations of catchers. Vasquez, I wouldn't want. I'd want Sandy Leon if he pops in there. Sanchez is okay, but he's probably getting the day off today. So without lineups confirmed, we're playing with sort of a wide open deck. As the lineups confirm, these guys will come in and disappear from the player pool. You got to know that. So I'm not messing with that just yet. Chris Davis, don't like him. So what do? I drop him. I don't want him to appear in 4 lineups. I want to lower the number of lineups he appears in. If he appears in 1 or 2, it might be okay. It might be a good mix, and I might gamble with it. But as a general rule, I don't want him in 30% of my lineups. Joey Votto's fine. Neil Walker, I want him in more than 3 of my lineups because he's running hot in that New York offense. We saw that, right? So if I can get this, to stop lagging. There. And I'm going to jack him up to 12 points. You know, Hanley Ramirez, fine. I'd rather see Mitch Moreland. So if I wanted to, I could really dig in and find Mitch Moreland and pull him to the front, but I'm not doing that for this video's purpose, okay? Scopes okay, Nunez okay, Josh Harrison okay. I wanted more Scooter Gennett, 12 points. Okay, so which ones did we pick on? We picked on Neil Walker, Gennett, and let's pick on another one that we like, Chapman. Say I jack him up to 11.5 points. I should see him in more than one lineup. I should run this now with these projections changed a little bit, and when I re-optimize the lineups, my pitchers are going to be kind of about the same again, if you watch. See them piling in there? Okay, so it's a little different mix, and that was because of the salaries of the bats switching around a little bit. But now I've still got an even mix and with a little bit of price in there. That's actually fine still. If I look at the catchers, only Zunino. The others are all first basemen, apparently. So when I look at the first baseman, I get Neil Walker in 9 lineups all of a sudden. Did he come up a little? Damn right he did. What if I don't want him to come up quite that much? Maybe I'll change it a little bit. Or I want a little more Votto. I might make that, you know, like a 13.2. This is just what I'm going to sit in here and do until it gets a rough allocation of what I like. Gennett. Now he's only in one more lineup. Didn't come up much. All right, so we'll jack you another point and a half. See what happens. I come down here, Davis Chapman. Chapman came up to 3 lineups. I don't want him in 3. I want him in a little bit more. So I'm going to jack him a little bit more. And I can play, and this isn't just for my favorite. I can play with all of these guys this way if I want to. I can jump into shortstops and see. I don't want as much Didi Gregorius. He's not running as hot. So, sorry, you're going to drop down. Don't like Elvis Andrus. Don't want him in 3 lineups. You're going to drop down. Simeon, I wouldn't mind seeing you in a few more lineups, so you're coming up. Segura, same bit. You're going to come up. And I'm just throwing random numbers in there. Oh, Machado. I don't know. I'm just throwing Bogarts. Fine. Let's see. Let's go remix those shortstops and see what happened. Now, I jacked a lot of guys up. I might get a pretty similar mix this time around, and I might have to further tweak it. But you're going to spend time. This is massaging the optimizer. When you hear me saying massaging the DS, Domination Station, this is what I'm referring to. Pitchers, price got in there a little bit. Why? Because it's pulling that 7,900 salary, and it's making some of these other bats that I just identified fit. Fine. That's why DeGrom disappeared. DeGrom all but disappeared because I'm starting to play with some expensive bats, and I'm saying I want that expensive bat in there more. So it's sacrificing my pitching. There's Simeon, 4 Machado, 4 Bogarts, 4 Segura. Okay, fine. So I like that. I'll leave that alone. You know, and then when I finally get this stuff the way I want for all these different positions and jerk around and play around and massage these numbers, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go start looking through my lineups. Maeda. Am I okay with Maeda as a pitcher? Of course I am. Walker, Scope, Alvarez, Simeon, Giancarlo Stanton, Trey Mancini, Brent Gardner. So that is a New York-Baltimore stack with some Palka and some Simeon. Fine. If I like it, I'm going to check mark it. Personally. This is how I do it. David Price, Neil Walker, Scope, Balbuena, Machado, Stanton, Gardner, Palka. You might like that lineup. I don't. Skip. Maeda, Walker, Scope, Andujar, Mancini, Gardner, Palka. No. Maeda, Votto, Gennett, Peraza. There's my 3 Cincinnati. And then I've got Stanton, Gardner, Walker, 3 Yankees. That's a little different than Yankees, Baltimore, right? All right, fine. Run it. Looks good to me. Maeda again down here. Ooh, there's Oakland in Cincinnati. That's pretty sexy. Seattle and Baltimore. That's a new mix. Okay. I'm going to come down here and let's find the DeGrom lineup because I'm pretty Maeda heavy, am I not? You know, if I'm only running 4 or 5 lineups tonight, DeGrom, Walker, Nunez, there's Boston. Boston, Baltimore. Hello. Not the sexy Boston bats, but not bad. They were all good, actually. There's more. Oh, with a Charlie Blackmon. How sneaky would that? Oh, a Colorado. It threw a Colorado stack in there on me. How about that? That might go in a larger single entry GPP because I don't think anybody's going to have that combination of Boston, Colorado with DeGrom. See, now what I'm doing is I'm thinking as I'm going, how commonplace is that lineup? It's the way I like it. It's pretty normal. I'll throw it in my little 100-mans or my 3-man, 5-man, 10-man, 100-man combination ladder stuff. I'll throw it in that stuff, no problem. But what I'm looking, because what I'm doing is, again, I'm stacking a little bit and I'm aiming for those 100-mans. I want to win the 100-man. I don't give a crap about the 50-50. I want to win the 100-man. It just so happens that on nights when I miss the 100-man, I land in 25th place. Well, 25th out of 100, guess what it was? It was a 50-50 winner. So it better be in 50-50s. That's why I play 50-50s, is because I'm aiming for the 100-mans, but I'm missing with the 50-50s. Why? Because I'm taking the upside to get all the way up the leaderboard in the 100-man. I don't give a crap about the 50-50. I don't care about the 3-man. I don't care about the 5-man. If I finish in the top 20% of 100-mans, I have a very legit shot at winning a 5-man contest if I don't run into another guy who's just a little bit better than me tonight. That's all I care about. My ladder, everybody thinks it's from the bottom up, and I used to build it from the safe side up. I want to hit the 50-50 first, and then if I get lucky, I'll win the 100-man. I have flip-flopped. I don't give a crap anymore about the 50-50s. I want to win the 100-man. And I will miss with the 50-50. And if I miss the 50-50, then frickin' c'est la vie, man. That's just, that's just a bad day. But I'm going to aim for enough 100-mans that I'm going to hit 50-50s and 3-mans and 10-mans and 20-mans and all that crap. I'm going to get in that top 12 enough that when I get in the top 12, that 50-50 is in my rearview mirror, man. It is a foregone conclusion that I already won that damn thing. I use it for the nights I didn't quite end up successful in the 100-mans. It then boosts my bankroll a little bit. But when I hit the 100-mans, it boosts it a lot. I hope that's making sense to you. I can see the light bulbs going on. It's making sense to somebody out there. But I do it with a smattering of different lineups. I do it with, I'll take the chalk pitcher, that's fine. But what I'm looking for here, and the reason why I said that was super sneaky at the bottom, is it's a chalk pitcher, but it's not a chalk offense. But it is so off chalk that I don't even like it. I don't think they're in a good matchup tonight with Colorado. So I don't think that we should be going into, mainstream contests with it. I don't think it's going to have the possibilities of coming out well often enough to put it in a 3-man or a 50-50 or a 10-man or something that's a little bit more think about these contests, and I'm starting to get into contest selection. I shouldn't be doing this because it's what we talk about inside DFS Army more than anything. But to win a 3-man, you need to beat a third of the people in the world. If you can do that, you should beat 2 out of 3 guys. To beat a 10-man, you need to be in the top 10% of the world. To be in a 20-man, you need to beat the top 5% or be in the top 5%. And to win a 100-man, you need to be in the top 1%. Straight odds. 1 in 100 chance of winning, 1 in 20 chance of winning, 1 in 10 chance, 1 in 3 chance. Okay? So focus on building for those percentages. Don't focus on building for specific winning this or winning that. Try and hit the tiers of percentages. And then whatever one you typically are pretty good at doing, play that freaking contest. That's my big tip to you today. That's a big secret I just let out there. Probably shouldn't have done it. Hopefully some of you become VIPs because you want more. This is the stuff I talk to my guys about. If you made it to the end of this 40-minute video, good for you. Because you just got a big old nugget right there. Practice building lineups for, target scores. I used to start, I want 150 in, baseball. All right, fine, try and hit it. You don't know what it's going to do that night. Could be a low-scoring night, could be a high-scoring night. But then I started noticing when I play the free 20-man contests, I could get in the top 10 of those 20-man I bet I can play some 50-50s. If I can get in the top half of this 20-man, I bet I can get in the top half of a 1,000-man double up. Start playing some 50-50s and some double ups. Ooh, what's it take to get in the top third? Oh, a little bit more, a little better players, a little better correlation, a little better strategy. Oh, I'm in those 20-man leagues, I'm getting in the top 5, top 4 pretty consistently. I'll bet that I could win some triple ups. I bet I could win some 3-mans. I bet on a lucky night I could win some 5-mans. Start playing them. And then start, always enter one of the bigger contests just so you can see where your score would have fallen in, where it would have shaken out. I've run nights where I've run only 3-man contests, and run 10 of them. Well, I don't really know how chalky my players are. I don't really know how my lineup would have done according to the rest of the world. I just am watching the small contests that I'm in. I always try to run it in at least 100-man 50-50 or something, so I can get a basic idea if a guy is 17% owned or 45% owned, basic idea of if, I was in the top third of the world or the bottom third of the world, and how my lineup stacked up. So I'm trying to always study where I typically am, where I perform according to the masses. And then I'm going to enter those contests. And what I found out for me, I build safe lineups because I do build for 50-50s, and I don't stack like crazy because I don't want to be in 95th place out of 100 people. I want to be in 45th place. I want to be in 33rd place. I want to be in 18th place. So as I build for those, what I'm noticing is I don't have to stack like crazy to win those smaller contests, but I do have to stack some. So what I'm finding is my style gets to the top 1% of the world, fairly often. Maybe a couple of times a week, once every couple of weeks at worst. And what I'm finding is that I don't go beyond that very often. I don't get into the top half of 1% very often. I don't get into the top 10th of 1% very often. That's why I don't play big GPPs anymore, because that's what it takes to win those. If you're going to beat 100,000 people, you have to be in the top, 1,000th of 1%. Good luck. It's not going to happen. And it's certainly not going to happen if I'm your coach and you build the way I build. So I limit myself to those 100-mans. I'll play any other stuff for fun. Like if I come across a lineup like this that I notice down here with Colorado in it, and I'm like, holy crap, those guys are not in a good matchup. They're not hitting well. They don't have, a really much more than a snowball's chance in hell at making it tonight. But I can see it happening. Blackman, great player. Cargo, Ian Desmond, sure. Great players. They could get hot for a night, and if they do, and then Boston and DeGrom just do what they're supposed to do, bam! Guess who's sitting all alone at the top of the leaderboard? This guy. So that lineup, because it is not likely to get paid, but I can see it getting paid, is going to go into something that is going to have a heavy, heavy reward to it, because it isn't going to happen often. If I'm taking a high risk, I need a high reward. I don't take a lot of risk in these other lineups that I like. Therefore, I don't need a lot of reward. I'm aiming to hit them frequently. So sorry to ramble and belabor the point, but what I'm trying to get across to you is start studying where you typically fall in your contests. And wherever you typically fall, top half, top third, top quarter, top 10%, whatever. If you fall typically in the top 10%, or you can get there quite often, play 10-man leagues. You can win those. Play 100-man leagues. You can get into the bottom end of the cash in those. That's fine. Play triple ups. You'll do very well in those. And certainly play 50-50s because you're way past that money line.
I can't lie.
So the whole point is what you're trying to do is build to your style and then enter the contests that you have the best shot at being successful in. Okay, so again, this is how I used my research. This is how I crunch the numbers and identify who I like. This is how I tweak the Domination Station to spit out the lineups that I like. Then I walk through here and I check these boxes, and these might be the lineups that I play tonight. Now, these lineups aren't confirmed. I'm going to run this again later on in the evening. But what I'm telling you is this is basically how I do it. If you like that stuff and you want to access these tools and you want to learn how to use them, you need to become a VIP if you're not already one inside DFSArmy.com. You find that in the description of this video or in the comment section of this video. You click the link, you come on over, you tell them Chop sent you by using the code CHOP. You come have a party with the rest of us. 1,500 of us talking 24/7. I've got other stuff I've got to check on. I've got other people that I've got to talk to that I've got to coach up this morning as we wrap this thing up. So hopefully you got something out of this video. I know it went long at 45 minutes. Hopefully it was packed with content. Hopefully it was rewarding to you. And hopefully you will reward me by becoming a VIP inside DFS Army. You guys take care. We'll see you when we see you. Have a good night.